Hey guys, let's get straight to the point. Today I'm going to show you guys how I color graded the birthday party for my friend on the Sony ZV1. Before we talk about the color grading, this camera setting of the Sony ZV1 that I was using was in 4K 24 frames per second, shutter speed 1/50th because this camera cannot go up to or go lower to 1/48th of a second. ISO, I was jumping between the lowest one, of course, which is 125, and the highest I went was 2000. That is actually pushing the camera. As I said in my previous videos, this camera is amazing, but it's definitely not the best for low light because of the sensor size, the 1-inch sensor. So I highly recommend not to go above 1250 ISO on the Sony ZV1 because you will start to introduce a lot of noise in the shadows of the image. So unless you have DaVinci Resolve and also the paid version, which is DaVinci Resolve Studio, and you won't have noise reduction if I'm correct by using DaVinci Resolve. And Final Cut Pro has noise reduction, but for some reason it's really demanding on the computer processor or the graphics card. So that one will slow down your footage and the playback of your footage. So I don't use Final Cut Pro's noise reduction. On the CV1, yes, so nothing higher than 1250, but that day I had a scene where it was half lit by daylight with the sky panel and then half lit by like really dim light tubes. I think they're just fluorescent tubes, they're not really LED tubes, so that's why I was jumping between the lowest ISO to ISO 2000, which is not safe at all. You will see the grainy images later as an example. And also I was choosing the white balance to be custom white balance always when you are, especially when you are on a job, that you have a constant white balance so the camera doesn't have the ability to choose the white balance for you and the image is not going to go like cool or cool or warm depending on the scene. So I was using the white balance at 6000 Kelvin. You might think that it's a little bit higher than normal, which is going to make the image warmer than normal. That is because the daylight coming from the sky panel, for whatever reason, I think it's an overcast day and the color temperature of the daylight was really cool. So it was kind of bluish even to our human eyes. So I was looking at the screen of the camera. I always judge my white balance on the screen of the camera. Yes, it's not a really high resolution screen, but you can still kind of tell the color is like too cool or too warm for the video. So that's why I picked 6000 as the white balance, and of course 4K because I want as much detail as possible. By the way, I am filming at 1080p on the ZV1 for the first time, so let me know how it looks. I still have the normal studio kind of setup. I try to make sure that, yes, that applies to the project too, that I have zebra set to 75 IRE. I think that's IRE, but 75% zebra basically on the Sony ZV1. That is because I never want to clip the highlights. Clipping highlights, it's much, to me at least, it's much worse than crushing your shadows, make like the darkest part of the image like really dark. People are okay with like really dark areas in the shadows. Like even if you go to black, it's still okay because if it's black, it doesn't really bother people. When it comes to within a high dynamic range image where there's like bright and really dark area. But clipping your highlights is really amateur, at least to me. The look of the image will look really amateur because you cannot recover the highlights if they're clipped. So for example, my shirt right now is showing like a lot of zebras in this area, and I think this part is going to be clipped, but I'm wearing a white shirt, so that should be fine. But anything that is not in the color of white, especially skin tone, if it gets like too bright, let's say if I put my hand close to the key light, you can see that this part is probably going to turn pure white because the information is gone based on the overexposure of the highlight. So keep it at around 75% on the ZV1 and make sure that when you see zebra, try to turn down your ISO or use an ND filter to make sure that the zebras are gone, especially on human skin tone, because you will see like a white patch on the clipping area. So keep that in mind. That's my secret actually of using a camera that doesn't have the biggest dynamic range. I would rather crushing the shadows to fall into blacks instead of clipping my highlights and make part of the image white. So that's just how I use it, because the ZV1, again, the sensor is not the best when it comes to dynamic range and low light performance, but that's okay. I was really shocked by the image quality coming out of the ZV1 when I was color grading the footage. I kind of had that kind of expectation, but it still blew my mind when I was color grading the footage. We're in DaVinci Resolve. I'm going to show you very quickly the settings of my project. It's exactly the same as last time when I was showing you guys how I color grade the FX30 video portrait that I did. So the timeline resolution is always 1080p because I don't really need super high resolution when it comes to playback, and it's good enough because I just want to see the colors anyway. And this is easier on your system as well. We're just going to look at the color management. You can pause the screen and copy everything. Nothing was really crazy. I'm still using DaVinci YRGB as the color science, and timeline color space is still Rec. 709 Gamma 2.4. Super simple. Output color space is Rec. 709 Gamma 2.4. I will probably talk about how I started using wide color gamut from DaVinci on the FX30 images, because that one is a log format when it comes to filming. I was filming on the ZV1. I am always filming on the ZV1 with picture profile off. So no S-Log, no S-Log2, no S-Log3 especially on a camera with this kind of sensor and the 8-bit color depth. It's not gonna work. It's gonna be a disaster if you try to use that kind of profile. So picture profile off on the ZV1. Here on DaVinci, we're with this setup with the Rec. 709 as the color space output. So no conversion needed because it's not filmed in log. So this is the image before the color grade. Right here. This is before color grading. You can tell that in the image, the highlights are protected. That's what I always wanted. Yes, sometimes if it's too high contrast, then you might have to overexpose some part of the image. Let's say if the bottom part of the image is way too dark, where there's nothing on the screen even on the day of filming, I will probably sacrifice part of this wall here to overexpose it. But because I want to keep all the texture in the image, I was almost underexposing if you look at this image. But to me, it looks fine. I don't know why a lot of people think that it's not fine. Yes, if you're filming in log format, sometimes people like overexposing the image so the shadows are cleaner, so it doesn't have noise compressed in the shadows. But this is not log first. Second, even if I was filming in S-Log3 on my FX30, I always try to protect the highlights. I don't know. I have the noise reduction here on DaVinci Resolve. They're usually pretty good. So I usually try to protect the highlights. I don't mind crushing the shadows a little bit. Even this light right here at the top left corner, it's not overexposed. You can see on the scope here, we have the parade. If I hover my qualifier over to the area, you can tell that they're not overexposed. Even at like this light right here is around like 640 IRE. Nothing is clipping. The super bright wall, nothing is clipping. On the skin right here around this area, it's actually perfect. I was really surprised. I was only using the screen of the ZV1. Again, I was just using this camera. Nothing was added. I didn't have a monitor. I didn't have anything. I had an ND filter, but I didn't use it because it wasn't too bright in the area, so I did not use the ND filter. So purely just the camera itself gives me this image, which is mind-blowing, like considering the size of this camera right here. So on the skin tone, you can tell that it's still hovering and protected. On the scopes right here, you can tell that everything is protected. I think maybe that light, it's somewhere here, it's clipping, something is clipping on the left side, but it's actually on the right side. So, oh yeah, found it. So this reflection of the monitor or screen the blue channel is clipping, the greens and reds are okay, but you can tell that it's still not normal looking once something is clipped. So this is the original image straight out of the camera. I didn't touch it yet. I have this node tree right here. It's almost exactly the same as the FX31, which is the one that has the color space transform, but this one doesn't. Oh, let me try to pull that in. Yep. Oh, I hate this when I'm doing the screen recording for a single monitor, because I have two monitors usually when I'm color grading. But when I do tutorials, I don't like doing it at my color grading desk. So that's why sometimes it gets like pushed to one side and I can't really like, I think this is already zoomed out, yes. So I don't know, like if DaVinci Resolve can like work on it and give me like smaller icons, I don't mind at all. Okay, let's jump straight into it. And I have one extra note here, but I always have extra note just in case if I want to add something or add like a layer on top of like something that I've already worked on. So it doesn't really matter, but this is how it should look like originally anyway. So I always have a noise reduction node for the ZV1 image. Just like my FX3, because of the sensor size, there is always gonna be some noise in the image, at least the shadows area. So here, if I turn it on, if you pay attention at the parade here, it cleans up a lot of stuff actually. So the shadows area, it cleans up everything. If I zoom in a little bit, you can probably see it. I don't know if you can see it on YouTube, but I can see it in my eyes like right now on my MacBook Pro screen. So always have a noise reduction. The settings are really simple. Frames is set to 1. The threshold is 10, 10, and these this side is uncheck or check that or unclick this one, so they're not linked. And the chroma noise reduction is 20. This is a little bit high, to be honest with you. I usually don't use 20 for most of my images, but for the ZV1, it's okay. The reason is because the size lens on the ZV1 is really sharp. It's ridiculously sharp. It's actually too sharp to my liking. So using the noise reduction actually makes it a little bit softer. So that's the noise reduction. And I have this note right here. I'll probably talk about it in a separate video, but this actually helps me to fix the ugly like greenish tint on like human skin when it comes to using Sony cameras. This is basically just shifting that yellowish greenish color to more of like an orange, a little bit healthier skin tone. So if I turn this on, you won't see it affecting the image right here. But trust me, if you apply it to like another image with like natural light and everything, it'll look better. But this one, it doesn't affect the image too much. It's really simple right here. I have under curves, I have hue versus hue, and I have orange and yellow kind of picked up, and this is just a tiny little push up of the yellow, so it goes towards the orange. Trust me, use that on your Sony images and you'll see a big difference. White balance, it really depends on where you're filming and how you set up your white balance on your camera, so there's not much point talking about this. But anyway, I have it so you can tell that before the white balance change or shift, it's still too cool. Like the color of the sunlight coming in from the sky panel, as I said before, so I have to warm it up. It's already looking really good, to be honest with you. I'm happy with like an image like this. Like it's not like bothering me at all, and people will be like, oh my god, it looks super good already. For comparing to, especially people are so used to seeing like smartphone footage. Okay, and exposure, again, this depends on like your exposure of your image, so it doesn't really matter. But you can see that I try to compress it a little bit so I can have the information back from the highlights and shadows. So again, this is stretch. I know it's kind of weird, but then I'm trying to get the information back from the shadows and highlight area. So this is a little bit more of like a log image almost. And then curve, or this I call it contrast, sometimes I call it curves. But it's basically using the curve, which is here, and it's a normal S-curve and trying to bring some saturation back to the image. So after that, you can see that it's already bringing the contrast back. And I lifted the shadows a little bit, especially for this image right here, because of the look that I was going for. It's completely up to you. You can take this point at the bottom and just drag it back down, and you should have like a higher contrast situation right there, or image. Saturation, for some reason, I did not really like the image going like way too saturated sometimes, especially this look that I'm creating. I want a cooler, less saturated, more of like, how should I say it? Not too colorful. I want it to be like cooler. So that's why cooler looking, not the bluish cooler looking. So I desaturated a little bit. And midtone detail is exactly the same as the FX30 images, where I have, let me show you right here, under the primaries color wheels, I have midtone detail set to -20. This is gonna smooth out the skin tone, like detail, like, or the skin detail. That's where this lies. And this helps making the skin smoother. So it's gonna be better looking. Sharpness, and as I said before, the size lens on the ZV1, especially in 4K, is so sharp. So I have to unsharpen it even in post. So it really depends. This is a little bit tricky. It really depends on the footage that you're working on. If you are zoomed in, let's say you set it to a telephoto lens and you just zoom all the way in, it's like a close-up, then you might want to unsharpen it by pushing this blur level up higher. I go from 50 is before adjustments, 52 it's about the right amount, where it makes the things less sharp. So this is before, this is after. Really, really subtle, but you can see the difference. You can feel the difference, I should say. So this is what I'm gonna do when I am using the telephoto lens with like a zoom in, like with the person filming, filling the frame a little bit more. If it's a wider angle, then I might need to increase the sharpness because the details are not as high when I compare it to when I'm doing a close-up. So it really depends. So if it's a close-up, I unsharpen it. If it's like a wide shot, I will increase it by dragging this down to about like 0.47. And this is where I create the look. We have look 1, 2, 3. As I said before, I always try to do each adjustment with one node. I don't like having all kinds of adjustment in one node where I have like, let's say the curve adjusted and adding like colors or shadows or highlights within one node, because that means if I reset that node, like everything is reset. So I have multiple layers, and I don't use, as I said before, I don't use any parallel node or layer nodes, because yes, that is super powerful tool, but I don't use it for projects like this. Like I don't need to do that. Like, unless you're working on like a film, like a movie, then you might want to use those. And also I am in a really like a situation where I'm just by myself filming like here and there. So I don't have time to do like micro adjustment on one person. I have like 50 clips here. So look 1, I am adding a little bit of, oh, by the way, when it comes to look, I usually just stick with primary wheels. You can literally copy this setting. I don't mind at all. I don't sell LUTs, I don't sell presets. Copy it, enjoy it, have fun with it. Let me know how it goes. If it helps your images, that will be great. I'm just happy about it. I added a little bit of a green into the shadows because, as you know, for whatever reason, a lot of cameras, they have IR pollution, even if you don't use any filters. So the shadows area will have a little bit of a magenta hue right there. So I added some green there, and I have some orangey red added back to the midtone, which is where the skin tone is. So those two are the adjustment in look 1. By the way, I might have similar adjustment in the other 2 nodes, just to keep in mind, because I always do micro adjustments, but I want to make sure that I save this look because I think this is a good look. first, so I save it in look 1 right there. I even have a habit of saving the screenshot, which is the power grade per image or the look that I like, so I can go back to them. Because as I said in my previous video, when I do undo in DaVinci Resolve, at least on my computer, it doesn't really undo the previous step. It goes like all the way to like 3 steps, or it does nothing. So that's why I save every single look and also note. Here it's look 2, let's see what happened. So in look 2, oh, that's even less obvious. So in look 2 note, I added some green in the shadows, just a little bit more. You can tell that it's adding a little bit more to the shadows. And in look 3, again, if you want to have this look, by all means, just have it. Pause the screen right here and just copy the numbers. Look 3, I added even more green to the shadows because I want to create that look that I want. Yes, this is a really creative choice. Not a lot of people will think this is normal, and not a lot of people will be like, oh, this is the best image ever. But this is the look that I was aiming for. Before any creative adjustment, this is how it looks like. It looks good, as I said before, it looks great, but I just want to be a little bit more creative. If I want a little bit of a natural look, I'll probably stick with just look 1. But look 2, it's already really pushing it, but look 3, it's pushing it all the way to the creative side. But this is the fun part of color grading. It's up to you. It's a creative choice. You're the colorist, you're the color artist, basically, right? And this is the look. After that, it's gonna be super simple. I have halation and grain. Let's talk about halation. In halation, it's basically a DaVinci Resolve effect where you can just search up halation or halation. I don't know, like halation. Please let me know if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. And here I have, you just need to drop that effect here, and if you click onto the effects tab on the top right, you have these threshold and strength. And I basically use the same FX as the FX30 halation settings. So if I turn it off, it's not obvious right now because this is off, this is on. The reason why this is not obvious is because I don't have a super high contrast part of the image. I try to protect all the highlights and the shadows. So that's why there is not much that the halation is applying. But in a higher contrast scene, let's say even on a daylight scene where the sunlight is beaming on someone's face, you will see the halation or halation effect really strongly. When you click onto it, you will see like some red and green fringing on the high contrast part. I thought it's gonna show up here, but it did not. But anyway, that's halation. I always keep it there because I want that kind of like, yes, vintage kind of flawed lens look, because the lenses on modern day cameras, especially like a Zeiss lens, is so sharp and really nicely corrected. So everything looks too clean. Everything looks too clean. So that's why I use the halation node to bring that imperfection back. Grain, just like the same as my FX30 tutorial. If I turn it on, you can see that grains are being introduced. And if you want to look at the settings, it's the custom setting. I was using the 35mm 400T grain, and these are the strains and grain size. The reason why this is probably a little bit different from the FX30 is because images coming out of the FX30 is cleaner. So the ZV1 already has some noise, but I clean it up so they look more like grain, so I don't need to add too much grain in post just to make it grainy. So that's how I have it set up for this image, or this look, I should say. And of course, once you have it set, you can just right click on the image, grab still, and you have this image right here and the power grade right here that you can apply to other images. So you don't have to, if it's within similar kind of lighting and colors and everything, or settings or location, you can definitely do that. Then you can just do micro adjustments to the images. other than this scene right here. And another quick tip of filming something like this or filming something on the go that you don't have time to set up lights and everything, try to backlight the subject, put the light behind the subject. You can see that the light is coming from here, from the big sky panel right here, and it's going over the top of her head, her hair, and her arm. So it has a really nice roll off from the bright part to the dark part of the person. And this is called highlight roll off. If you have a soft highlight roll off with the backlight coming to the front, it's always super, super nice. That's why I kind of stay on this side of the space, and I don't like having the subject front in. So that's how I was doing it. This one is a little bit darker, but I really, really like this image because it's okay to lean towards like a darker image if it creates the right feeling, but you can see that the lights are coming from the back behind her. And this area on the right-hand side of the room, let me see if I can show you like how it looks like. It's basically a black, pitch black kind of area. So this is the sky panel where the sky light is coming in. Sky panel, I mean like windows. No, not like the light. We didn't bring in any lights. We didn't have the budget. And on the other side is basically a black wall with some tungsten light. So you can see that it's creating a natural negative fill on the person's or the subject, I should say. So that way you have a nicer contrast and cleaner, not cleaner, but a higher contrast look where you can see the dimension or the 3D of the person. So I try to stay facing the biggest light source and filming from the darker side. You'll get used to it once you start filming more. This is basically how I was filming. And another one that I like the most is actually after the workout, where they were not doing anything. They're just relaxing on the floor, and this is, I don't know, this is just cool. I think they same concept, but the light is from the top down right now, but they're facing the top, facing the ceiling, so that's fine. I still have a nice shadow area here to create a 3D contrast look. And you can see that except the red channel, the shadows are crushing because I was adding a lot of green into the shadows, but you can still see a lot of details in the dark part of the image and you are not losing any highlights. This is the look I like. Depends on what you're filming. So this is definitely not a high key light kind of situation, but I really like it. And this was filmed handheld too. Like the stabilization on the lens on the ZV1 is just absolutely amazing. So I love this camera. This is the camera that I carry all the time right now. You can get a paid job using this camera like this. People will, at least like people were happy that they wanted to pay me, but it was like a birthday gift. So I am really confident that I can use this for a paid job. Yes, this is not the biggest camera that you can show to your client. Oops, sorry, my laugh mic is being pulled. But image quality is always the most important. You should show them the image coming out of the camera. I've done this before. I show people that, hey, this is what I've been filming on the ZV1 after color grading. And they've always been like, oh, wow, like, okay, like I don't mind you using this small camera because it looks great. I have no complaint at all, except if you are filming something that is super dark and in super low light environment where you know that you will go above ISO 2000. Because 2000 is already pushing, it's too bad, like super high ISO to this camera compared to full frame. I was using a Sony ZV1 IV before and I could push it like all the way to like 6400 and it's still fine. But that's because I like the pocket size. So this image right here was filmed, I think, in ISO 2000. You can tell that I tried to save it, but it's already really not good looking. It was really grainy. So that's why everything else I love, all the images coming out of this camera It's small, but yet powerful. So keep that in mind. If you want to use this camera for a paid job, you can definitely do that. Especially the audio is really good with the wind muff at the top. I had no problem recording audio, even with people talking in a loud environment, because DaVinci Resolve has really good voice isolation feature right now. I think starting from DaVinci Resolve 17, you can isolate the voice, and it's pretty natural to be honest with you. Around 50%, we will probably make another video about that, and it's totally fine and usable. And with the wind muff thing at the top, people actually think that the camera is really cute, and it's a good conversation starter. It's always fun to carry a small camera where you can just film high quality images. So this is how I color grade this birthday party video. I hope you guys enjoyed the process, enjoyed this kind of tutorial video. I've been receiving so many really nice feedback and comments from you guys. Thank you so much for supporting us, supporting our videos and channel. I have a lot more video with the ZV1 and FX30 coming up, portrait videos, a lot of event video. I went to a lot of events with these cameras. I went to the Vancouver Street Dance Festival just recently, or actually just yesterday. But I will show you guys the images, and I will show you guys the footage, and I will also show you guys the color grading process to get those images. So definitely stay tuned. Let me know if you have any comments or questions in the comment section below. If you want to just say hi and let me know that you've been using the same process for your images and you like it or not, you can let me know so I can improve on my color grading process as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.